Dogen's fascicle Inmo, that's translated as Thusness by Crestone Mountain and Such or Suchness by the Soto Zen Text Project, led by Carl Bielefeld. And at first I thought like, oh no. I just did a 3 months practice period at the Boulder Zen Center, and I've decided to introduce the Boulder Sangha to Dogen, one fascicle at a time, but I'm just doing one fascicle each year. And I just finished a line-by-line commentary on Dogen's fascicle Zenki, which Tanahashi translates as undivided activity. But just a quick comment on my own journey with studying Dogen. I feel like I've been walking my own path together with Dogen for 30 years now, but at first it was really just with certain phrases, just like a phrase that sticks out. And the phrase would be working in me. And then I felt challenged to match my own experience with what seemed to be expressed there in this phrase. So to give an example, a phrase that I've been walking with for, long time, decades. The entire world in the 10 directions is the true human body. And if you're not startled by a statement like this, then it's like, what are you going to be startled by? The entire world in the 10 directions is the true human body. So I know this body, it has a boundary. There's a skin that kind of separates inside from outside. There's this, and there is that. There's here and there's there, and there's a boundary that separates the two. So to then chew on a phrase like this, or let it chew on you, is to call into question this boundary. Well, how do you do that? So in a similar way, when you consider a concept like thusness, it's like you need to make space, I think, to allow it to not be understood or work on you in ways that you don't quite anticipate. Before I speak about, or before I quote Dogen, I made a I printed out some 2 sections from the fascicle so I can quote it later. Before I go there, I want to introduce you to a teaching from the Lankavatara Sutra called the 5 Dharmas. And it's kind of a small section in the Lankavatara Sutra. And it's a list, basically, of 5 ideas, 5 concepts. Appearance, name, discrimination, right knowledge, and thusness, or suchness. So I am asked to work with such a list or look at it, you read the sutra or somebody presents the teaching like I'm doing now, and kind of need to make sense of the terms. And appearance is that which appears to the senses. Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and in Buddhism, as a sixth sense, the mind. So if you see shades of green and red and yellow, and you hear a crunchy sound, and you taste acidity and sweetness, and smell something fruity, and you touch it with your lips and have a smooth surface, but when you bite into it, it's more textured and juicy, and then the mind binds it together, and you realize that you're eating an apple. So already there's a conceptual frame, and then there's a name, appearance, name. It might be useful to reflect that the concept that binds the appearance in its sixfold expression together is not the same as the name, because if you speak multiple languages, then you have different names for the same concept. That allows for translation. And when you conceptualize appearance, and when you give it a name, we could say you are removing yourself one step from the appearance. And it's interesting that, in a way, once we live in a world of names, we don't really have to pay attention to the appearance quite fully. So you can experiment with that. Like, you don't really have to taste or smell the apple. You just see its shape and color, and you know it's an apple, and then you can go on. It's like the mind is already registering the world through the conceptions and names that are already given. Yesterday, I gave a talk at Austin Zen Center, and I presented, this was a different topic, not knowing, but I don't know, I appreciated the overlap with Thusness. So I said there, and I'll repeat it here, that I have a 4-year-old son, and I'm teaching him the world by naming the world. And I feel like I'm deluding him, it's like, I'll say that it's this. And he's very eager to repeat it and master the world. Naming. I can see that he feels power to handle the world through the conceptions and names. And maybe we can recognize that in ourselves, that when we feel we have the clarity and power to name something and understand it in that way, then we feel like we're in charge. Like, we know what's up. And then in the teaching of the 5 dharmas that I'm borrowing from the Lankavatara Sutra, the next step is discrimination. And discrimination here means, I think, distinction, but also contradistinction. Like that when we have a concept, it is always in contrast to what it is not. It's like you understand something through understanding what it is not. So we draw distinctions, and that means we draw boundaries between this and that, good and bad, here and there. And this is endless, right? Endless concepts that appear in contradistinction. Not just in a binary way, maybe, but you place the apple in contradistinction to pears and oranges and strange stuff like quinces, or somebody had to invent that name, because is it an apple? Is it a pear? Differentiation is endless. You can make always more distinctions. And then I would add to the list of the 5 dharmas, 6th dharma in the 4th position here, and say, like, these concepts, once they are in systems of differentiation and distinction, then we can organize them in stories and bind them together in space and time. And we can have protagonists and characters that stand for those distinctions, or, value one side over the other. This is better than that. That's, I think this is better than that. That's a short story. A familiar one. I have a twin sister, and I grew up with her in the same family with our parents, and we went to school together, always in the same class. We did everything together. Everything. We kind of had the same hobbies. We played the same sports, different teams, girls and boys teams, but it's amazing when I look back. It's like, and she's a very different person. She's got very different problems than I do. So that's a story, and I feel that it implies a lot. Like, you know the distinction between nature and nurture, right? Some people think that the difference in people is due to nurture, and some people think it is due to nature. And people do twin studies, find out about this distinction. So maybe I can tell myself a story of, like, how come that my sister, who grew up in such a similar way, has become such a different person. And I learned something from that. I hold a certain view now that it's because of that. It's like that. I organize this experience and the distinctions that I make in a way that makes sense of my own path in relationship to my sister. So this teaching shows that there's a starting point, which it calls appearance, and then there is a cascade of mental construction. And it's just, as usual in the list, like, a lot is left out, but it shows sort of the direction, right? And I just added one, and maybe we can add more. But the gist of it for me is that with each step and each further mental complication, I'm removing myself one more step from what? Thusness. And then in the 4th position of the 5 dharmas, or if we add story, it would be 5th position is right knowledge. And what is right knowledge? Right knowledge is kind of this understanding that the mind is creating these layered, cascading fabrications and constructions. And we can use it as an interruption, like this knowledge that it is like this, we can use to interrupt that. Like Suzuki Roshi's instruction to not invite your thoughts to tea when you sit zazen, you notice that you are involved with discursive thinking. You've come to the end of this, progression that the teaching is pointing out here, and then you notice it, and then you return to appearance. You return to the sensation of breathing, or you return to the immediacy of the senses. And then it can go off again, appearance, name, discrimination, story. You learn to return. Now, and then the last item on the list is thusness, suchness. And maybe our initial idea is that when we return to the immediacy of appearance, we return to thusness. Then we're in what is called thusness. I'm just trying to actually clarify the term a little bit before going to Dogen, because that's like, this is already assumed that there's an understanding of thusness. Like when he begins his discourse, you've heard about thusness before, and now I can talk into that. So maybe you think by returning to appearance, the immediacy of appearance, you are in the realm of thusness. But maybe it's useful to study appearance a little bit more. I got to spend a little time with your dog yesterday. What's his name again?
Doesn't have a name.
No name. The dog. That's a name. So dogs hear things that we don't hear. Does the dog live in the same world, or does he live in a different world? We have to say it's a different world. A different world of appearance. And this is true for many animals. They have sensory capacities that we don't have, or their range is different. Like they pick up different frequencies, or bats fly, with echolocation, and it's inconceivable to us. It's like they see through their ears, or we don't know how it works. I mean, we can describe it, but we don't have the experience. It's a different world. And when you look at what kind of sounds bats make, you find that cats and dogs can hear it. Like they have a spectrum where so in their world, bats make sounds. In our world, bats have sound. So clearly there is more to the world than what appears through the senses. I mean, this is a kind of speculation, but I assume that there is vastly more than what appears to the senses. It's a mystery. What the world is a mystery. The Polish-American engineer and philosopher Alfred Korzybski has this famous quote, the map is not the territory. Right? Like we're talking about something like that. It's like our mental constructions, that's the map, and then there's the territory. And don't confuse the map with the territory, or don't take the finger for the moon thing. There's a lot in there. useful to consider that the map is not the territory. But when it comes to appearance, we think appearance is the territory, but appearance is the map too. Appearance is just the map for a territory that we just don't really know. The map of appearance is good enough for us to function. Maybe some wise, if there was a god or some like benevolent demon, maybe who created us, maybe this power left out certain things for us so we are not disturbed. It would be too disturbing to have everything be picked up by our senses. When you get a feeling that appearance is also just appearance, it's also just a map, and that the territory is a mystery, the world becomes wider and stranger. And you could say, like, well, what do I gain from that? Like, it's not accessible. But I think the way it is accessible, if I want to use that word, I don't know, the way it is present, is that we are, at each moment, we are functioning through this mystery. Everything is always coming together at each moment to make this moment and this appearance possible. So while our senses don't pick up everything, we are the expression of this mystery. We're emerging from it. In each moment, we're emerging from it, from that complexity. And I think it's useful to cultivate a kind of humility or cautious reserve. It's like, well, there might be more to things than I see and understand. At the same time, we have permission to function through what's available to us. We function through the appearance that our sensorium gives us, and we also function through our mind and our intellect. So clarifying this, I think, is right knowledge. But as a practice, it's like, how do you do it? How do you intervene into your world of appearance and mental construction? How do you intervene and cultivate this this openness to what I'm just calling the mystery? Because it is, in the end, for me, experientially, it is openness. So it's like the appearance is a first kind of closure. And then you name it, conceptualize and name it, and then you close it down a little bit more. And then you close it down more into, distinction analysis. And you close it down further into story. And then you've grasped something, but you've lost openness. I don't know if you're going to look at this fascicle in any depth, but when I looked at it, it's like, well, I found that it has 7 sections, and it, 6 of these sections are just stories of Dharma ancestors interacting with each other. And in the second section, Dogen gives an example to illustrate the first story. Well, we don't have. How much time do we have? A week? But I want to start at the end. Section 7 is short. Weinang, the sixth ancestor, instructed Nanyue. What is that which comes thus? Now, this is interesting. Like, I don't speak Japanese. I'm very dependent on commentaries that translators kindly make and add some depth to where certain things come from. Like this in Japanese, I've read, can be seen as a statement or as a question. And so this is also something to, when you read Dogen, to appreciate that there is a lot of openness in the text. And when you read the different translations, you're like, that's the same text. So there's room for interpretation, but there's also two layers of meaning. It is a question and a statement at the same time. But when we render it in English, we either have to put it as a question or as a statement, and then one dimension of it is lost. So this is, by the way, this is a slightly modified translation that I wrote kind of based on the translations that I found, but in a way that makes sense to me. Not willy-nilly, but I want to encourage you to, if you work with multiple translations, to see if what it is that makes sense in your own experience. So this could be, what is it that comes thus? But the what is the point of this whole section, and the what is either a question or just a word here. So I wrote it down as what with a question mark. What as a question. The question what? What is that which comes thus? The meaning of these words is as follows: because thus is beyond doubt and beyond understanding. We just talked about it. Thus is beyond understanding, before understanding. Because thus is beyond doubt, beyond understanding, and because thus is what? Truly clarify and embody the 10,000 things as what? Truly clarify and embody a single thing as what? The fact that what is beyond doubt is what comes thus means. The fact that what is beyond doubt is what comes thus means. So I've had a lot of fun with this for weeks since I've learned that I'm supposed to talk about this. Classical. It's like, try it out, like walk through the world with what? You could say, what is it? But I find what even more open than what is it, because it already closes it down. It's like, if you say it, the focus of your attention, so I think about attention as focus and field. It can be narrow and focused, or it can be wide as a field. When you say it, it's already focused, because you're already looking for something. Just this, just to notice this is immense. I think one of the diseases of our fast-paced time is that people are jumping attentionally from focus to focus all the time. Focus, 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 focus. And also, when you hear people talk about benefits of mindfulness, it's all about focus. It's so tiring to be focused all the time. Who wants to be focused all the time? I don't. I like, one reason I sit zazen is that I can be unfocused. That can rest in the field, in an open, wide field where the focus expands and includes everything and isn't just like limiting something as something. That's where thinking begins. The cascade of the five dharmas that I presented. That's where it begins with focus, actually. To pick something out from the field and then name it and then put it into relation with other stuff and so forth. So, in our posture, in our zazen posture, it's important, I feel, to practice soft eyes, to widen your gaze and to allow yourself to not look at anything in particular, but everything all at once. And it's not about seeing, it's about attention. So seeing is just one way, one concretization of attention. But your attentional field, the mind, let it be wide and include everything all at once and nothing in particular. Like when you look at a room, like I'm doing now, I can look at you, that's focus. I can look at everyone all at once. And what do I pick up when I look at everyone all at once? The atmosphere of the room. There's actually more precision in that, in a sense, because I'm feeling the whole and not just the parts. When you look at a part, you're committed. When you look at the field, you're open. This part could emerge or this part. There's freedom there. This is also true for views. Once you're committed to a view, it's got to be like this. This is delusion. Right knowledge here is also, it's an antidote to delusion. To make sense of delusion, I came up with this little two-step theory of there's delusion 1 and there's delusion 2. If you make a conception or a discrimination like that, we just talked, that's delusion 1. You're removing yourself from thusness. But when you believe in that, that's delusion 2. Dogen says in the Genjo Koan, there are those who are deluded within delusion. Yeah, that's that. That's delusion 2. You've committed belief to your construction. You think it's true. You're replacing reality with that construction. Or you're confusing the two. You think that's reality. When we just talked about reality is ultimately withdrawn. It is always more than what we can think or say about it. Always more. Always more. There's always more to it. So what? What is openness? What is, he says here, what is beyond doubt? I mean, there's always what. That's beyond doubt. And it is that which comes thus. Okay, I'll jump to section 1. We started at the end. The fascicle begins with Yunju, an heir of Dongshan. Dongshan is the founder of our school, we could say, in China. Yunju was an authentic ancestor of the Dongshan school. That's our school. One day he said to the assembly, "You are trying to attain thusness, yet you are already a person of thusness. As you are already a person of thusness, why would you be worried about thusness?" So this is a familiar complication. So we just saw a teaching that said like, oh, there's these mental constructions and they compound each other and that removes you from thusness. So thusness is something that isn't already there. It is something that needs to be attained. Like you've got to do something. You have to practice not inviting your thoughts to tea and peeling labels off of things and practicing what. Right? But it says here, like if you're trying to attain thusness, you are seemingly unaware that you're already a person of thusness. And if you forget that you're already a person of thusness, your trying to attain thusness stands in the way of realizing thusness. I had this at some point in my practice, I don't know, some 20 years ago, or it began to dawn on me that I'm not separate from enlightenment. What would you say? Are you separate from enlightenment? Or not? If you think you have to attain it, you're separate. It's like if somebody says to you, attain your leg. How do you do that? You already have a leg. There's nothing to attain. Isn't that what the Heart Sutra says? No legs to attain. But it's also true that you can be disembodied. You can be so dissociated from the sensations of your body and so much in your head that you do not feel your legs. There are many people in the world who are like that. Or let's say your heart, you don't feel your heart. You shut it off. You shut those sensations off, and you prefer to live in your head because that allows you to not feel those disturbing feelings that are happening in your heart. So on the one hand, we can't attain our legs or we can't attain our heart or our feelings, but on the other hand, there is a waking up to the legs or waking up to the heart, waking up to the immediacy of our experience. To have this thought of like, I am not separate from enlightenment. I'm not divided from enlightenment. This was a kind of big deal for me. For now, Tobin continues, for now, let's consider as the essential point of this, that thusness is the teaching of going directly to unsurpassed enlightenment. Going directly there. What is the time of practice and realization? It's now. It's not in the future. So what does it mean to go directly there? It's like to allow yourself to be completely here now. And the only way to be here now is to realize that the now, this like seemingly intangible small section of time, that this now is a here. And the here is not here versus there. The here is infinite. It's like, where do you draw the line? It's like at your skin, like that's where here stops, and then that's there, or like beyond this room, like the room is here and everything else is there, and then you just expand the boundary. Houston, Texas, United States. Where does here end? You can say there, but if you don't say there, here includes everything. It's all happening together. It's all coming together to make this moment possible. You're going directly to here. Let yourself function. Within unsurpassed enlightenment, the world of the 10 directions is but a small portion. Enlightenment exceeds the boundary of the entire world. How do you make sense of this? I talked about how important this phrase was for me, the world of the 10 directions, but my sense initially was the world of the 10 directions, that's everything. That is the entire world in the 10 directions. That's the expanded here, that's the here without a boundary. It's everything all at once in the 10 directions. 10 directions means the 4 cardinal directions and the 4 in between and up and down. You can feel into these directions, in all directions. Let your attentional figure cover the entire here, the entire world in the 10 directions. But then Dogen says, it's but a small portion. Just like we said, appearance is only a map. There's more to the world than what appears, but our world is what appears. But it's just a small portion. In enlightenment, thusness, he said, let's understand that thusness means going directly to unsurpassed enlightenment. Enlightenment exceeds the boundary of the entire world. You are, this is funny to me, Kastanahashi translates accoutrement. You are an accoutrement of the entire world in the 10 directions. Carl Bielefeld says implement. You are an implement of the entire world in the 10 directions. You are a tool, an instrument, an expression of the entire world in the 10 directions. How do you know it to be thus? You know it because your body-mind appears in the entire world of the 10 directions without being yourself. This mystery is coming together from the 10 directions and is making this body happen, but it's not belonging to yourself. It is just an accoutrement of the world. Your body is not you. Your life is carried along, moving in time without stopping even for a moment. Where has your youthful face gone? When you search for it, there is no trace. When you ponder deeply, there are many from the past whom you cannot encounter again. They're dead. The pure mind does, so he's invoking basic truth of our practice, impermanence, right? Change, everything is changing. And then he says, the pure mind does not stay. Did you have the idea that the mind of enlightenment stays while everything else is coming? No, he says the pure mind does not stay. It comes and goes in fragments. Even if there's truth. I thought there was truth, but maybe not. Even if there's truth, it is not something that stays within the boundary of yourself. This truth of enlightenment is wider and vaster and more mysterious than the entire world in the 10 directions of commentating. Because of thusness, you arouse the aspiration for enlightenment. Once this aspiration arises, you cast aside what you have been enjoying. You come forward to hear what you have never heard and realize what is not yet realized. This is not entirely your own doing. Realize that this is so because you are a person of thusness. So our wish to awaken is not something that arises from us. It arises from thusness. It arises because we are already a person of thusness, because we're already functioning through this mystery. This mystery wants to make itself known to us. It wants to be realized. It's not our small project. It's what I'm reading, what I think I'm reading here. It's like something in you catches that drift, or that drift catches you, and you are on a path, and it's not your own doing. This is great, I think. How do you know that it is so? You know it because you want to attain thusness. This inmost request, Zenki Dillo Roshi speaks about. This inmost request is something you find. It's already there. You want it. You want to attain thusness. And as you already have the face and eye of a person of thusness, and legs and arms, do not worry about thusness. Worrying too is thusness. So it is no worry. Also, do not be surprised at the thusness of thusness. This is a little surprising, right? The worry about thusness is also thusness. So he's saying, he's pretty kind. He says, you're probably surprised here, but do not be surprised at the thusness of thusness. Even though there is the thusness of being surprised and being in doubt, it is simply thusness about which we should not be surprised. It's pretty amusing. But it's serious, because if you are concerned, worried, surprised about the world and how it is a mystery and how you are here and how is it all working, you are separating yourself from basically, I would say, the energy of bringing forth your life. You're standing back and are concerned about whether it's okay, or, is it okay for me to be alive? Something wrong with me? Have I reached enlightenment or not? And if you're in that place, you're blocking something. So my own experience of this is then I'm not fully alive if I'm in that spot. So to get the advice, do not be surprised. Do not worry about it's okay to worry, but don't worry about the worry. Just worry. That's enough. My friend in Vienna, people are kind of proud of being grumpy. You go to a coffee shop in Vienna, you've got an old grouchy waiter, and he's celebrating his. So anyway, my friend in Vienna talked about the Viennese disease. And her definition of a Viennese disease is like, we're not just angry, we're angry about being angry. That's that. That's it. Don't worry about worrying. Just be angry when you're angry. And then I end here. The end of the first section here. Do not measure this with the yardstick of Buddha or mind. This thusness. Do not measure thusness with the yardstick of Buddha or mind, and do not measure it with the yardstick of the world of phenomena or the entire world. Do not measure it with the entire world. Do not measure it with phenomena. I said, you may think thusness is appearance. Do not measure it with appearance. Do not measure it with the idea of the totality of appearance. This is just making thusness into a concept. You're trying to grasp it as the totality, all at once, everything all at once. The one says, no, that this separates you from thusness. It is just. And then he goes back to the beginning. It is just, if you are already a person of thusness, do not be worried about this. This is the practice. Recognize yourself as a person of thusness, and then do not worry about it. Do not separate yourself. Do not make it an object for this subject. Don't make it an object. Suzuki Roshi says, big mind is always on your side. If you make it into an object to attain, it's not on your side. This being so, let the thusness of sound and form be thus. Let the thusness of body and mind be thus. Let the thusness of the Buddhas be thus. Okay? Goodbye. Thank you very much.